Welcome everybody to my podcast, Big Little Small Talk. I'm Megan O'Hara-Sullivan and I love to talk, but I also love to listen. If you're new here, welcome. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you enjoy the episode. Good afternoon everyone. You're with me, Megan O'Hara-Sullivan. We're on Big Little Small Talk. And today I have someone by the name of Annette Rose, who is the brains and the beauty behind Food Assist, which Annette's going to tell me exactly what you do and exactly who you help. But what I want to start with, Annette, and welcome along, is...
Thanks for having me, Megan.
...is the history of Food Assist. So this is a really interesting story, isn't it?
It goes back to 1996. Where in Victoria a group of people got together and fed the farmers that were going through drought. From that we got involved and opened up a branch here in Darling Downs with my dad, and we were able to, we became big very quickly. Food Bank Australia was just on the scene at the same time, and so we, out of my lounge room on the telephone, managed to get many tonnes of food donated from manufacturers and suppliers, to the extent that we ended up having to get a warehouse pretty quickly and a truck on the road to gather all this food. But we started off in a van, a family van, collecting bread and food at the end of from bakeries and at the end of other smaller manufacturers. And there was a lot of refugees, a lot of students, uni students, a lot of families that were single income that were really struggling. And so when we had the provision, we gave it, and that's how we started. And it ended up by being a gold coin donation. So for $2, where people were walking away with just bucket loads of food, lots of food. We had a lot of food.
And then I know you're probably skipping over it because it's very familiar to you, but how do you go from being someone who's heard about Food Bank or Food Assist in Victoria to actually making contact with people who have extra food left over, and then knowing who it needs to go to? Okay,
so I guess going back a little bit, I grew up very privileged to have two loving parents, and I grew up on the Gold Coast, and my father was a minister there, and we had one of the largest churches on the Gold Coast. And it was full of young people, and they all had a story, and I didn't have a story because I grew up, I always say, in Pleasantville. I never even heard my parents fight and argue, let alone suffer or be subjected to heartache like young people were. So we were involved with a lot of drug addicts and a lot of broken families and things that you wouldn't want to grow up with knowing. And that sort of gave me an insight to human beings, and for somewhere along the line I had this great love for humans, and I used to get a great deal of joy when things worked well for them. And instead of bringing puppies home, I used to bring people home. I used to sit up and help social workers be on call for kids that wanted to commit suicide and things like that. So for some reason, something happened within inside of me that gave me a yearning to help protect people that were more vulnerable, and not really understanding where that came from. So when the opportunity arose, I just knew with what these businessmen did in Victoria was only short-lived. It was only for a short time, a short project. And I'm thinking this needs to be all the time. So I relocated and started doing my own research and started talking to some people, and just one thing it just happened organically. I made it happen, but it was easy because the need was there, the resources were there. And at the same time, Queensland had a large number of manufacturers. KR Darling Downs, we used to pick up every week there. I'm talking, when I say a pallet load, that equates to a tonne of food. So you're looking about 4.5 to 5 tonnes of food of the most amazing produce. And on one Christmas, we took something like 80 odd hampers of a full leg ham and half leg hams into the Lockyer Valley to families that were at that time, 26 years ago. There wasn't a lot of people around. The families were really struggling. They were on land and farms. And to see the impact of being able to provide something that they would normally have access to was pretty cool.
Well, it is very cool. So tell me about your mum and your dad. You said your father was a minister, and
Yeah.
had you grown up on the Gold Coast?
I grew up in my teenage years on the Gold Coast, and my dad, I always thought he was pretty cool, but I had to share him with everybody else. So my parents were quite traditional, if you like, religious, but I always loved my dad the most, and it's no secret. Sorry, Mum. I always loved my dad the most because he was such a free spirit, and he just accepted everybody for who they were. So I take after my dad more than I do my mum, who's rather traditional and would like things to be quite perfect, as us mums do, and I probably did with my daughter growing up, you know. So to actually grow up being free to be who you are, I think was really amazing. I don't know what the point was where, see, I'm a diamond grader by trade, and I have given up a career in an industry that would have probably made me very wealthy. And I've given that up to work with people and to look after the more vulnerable people. And I can't shake that off. I still get to go and play with diamonds and do that. I'm very grateful, but that's more my hobby now rather than my lifestyle choice.
Okay, I want to talk about diamond grading because I think everybody's ears have pricked up when you said that. You know, how do you go from sort of being a benevolent, not a charity, but a benevolent food giver from a diamond grader? So your parents, were they quite religious, would you say? What sort of minister was your father?
Well, we had, he was a founding pastor for King's Christian College on the Gold Coast. So today, King's Christian College also has a school. So we started off with the ACE program. So we founded that school. My younger brother, was one of the first students that went to that school. That college now has got 3 different campuses. It's a very well recognised school, King's Christian College. They now have 3 big campuses. And so, how do you describe it in the world we live in today? Because religion's so different to what it was. So the belief structure really is a biblical-based belief structure, with the freedom of loving people for who they are and accepting them for who they are, rather than putting them in the box or judging them or judging circumstances, and having a holier-than-thou attitude with people, coming as a place of love, you know. And when I think about what love is, if you want to be religious about it or biblical about it, love is just being kind, it's being patient, it's long-suffering. It's all those things that human beings need. And I think that I looked at Axe Care is love in action, really, is what it is. So it's like no good saying that you love somebody if your actions aren't that way. Or if you don't feel sorry for somebody, just step in and offer a kind word. Even in the industry that we're involved in now, it's tumultuous. People are even going through COVID. I've noticed a change in people, and I'm often saying to my staff in breakdown, you know, you just have to be kind now to one another. Things might not work the way you think they should. So just be kind. We have to remember to go back to what other people are so sensitive, and people just get hurt too easily. Mm. So if we show some grace, then I think that it allows people to grow.
So you're growing up in the Gold Coast, you've got one brother, any other siblings?
I've got 2 brothers, one in Sydney, one in Brisbane.
And you in the middle?
I'm in the middle, I'm the only girl.
Okay, so you left school, what happened then?
I left school. I was in the travel agency for some time. I got married, I had a child. I was in sales, did a lot of sales. I still was involved, you know, with the church and youth group and things like that. I really had a lot of close friendships. And everything changes when you get married and you've had a child. And then I was on my own with my daughter, and I just had to forge through life, and I made life work for us. And I worked tirelessly. I didn't sit around, and my daughter was in before and after school care or in family daycare, and I made it work so that we had something so I could provide for her.
Take me to how you became a diamond grader.
Because I've always had a love of bright, shiny things. My first job ever, my first paycheck, I walked around the corner at Burleigh Heads to a little jeweller's store and they buyed my first ring as a benchmark. I was working at Smales and Purcell Travel Agency on the Gold Coast. It's now closed, and we used to do all the holiday apartments in Burleigh Heads and a lot of domestic travel. So the funny story about it is the gentleman that had that jeweller's store is the same name or the same company as the guy that I work with as a jeweller down the Gold Coast now, who brought this man's jeweller's store. And he used to be a watch. Used to fix up all the high class watches, all the top brand watches. So it's very hard to be a watchmaker, a good watchmaker, right? You often have to send things away. So Sterling Jewellers is the jewellers that I work with very closely, Europeans, and we can get our hands on absolutely anything will blow your mind. The most beautiful coloured stones. And my jewellers that I work with love working with me. When you put me at a table, I've been at a table with millions of dollars worth of stones, and I literally drool. My hands sweat. I get so very excited.
Okay, well, I want to know, I like the nitty gritty of it, Annette, how you go from walking around the corner, putting your first deposit on a diamond, to being a diamond grader.
Well, my husband pushes me to do things that are of a passion, something, because he knows that I drive myself and I'm available 24/7 to people. So he's always pushed me to, what about me? What do I do to fulfill what I need? And so I went ahead and I did my diamond grading course, and I did a coloured grading course as well. Because that I'm working with it, I actually have a very keen eye to, I can walk into any jeweller's store and pick up probably the most expensive thing, or I have an eye for, I liken people and diamonds the same. Because diamonds are like the letter of the alphabet. You have it from a top grade all the way down, and the clarities all change, and therefore it gives you a whole different context of what a stone looks like. To me, that's no different to a human being. A human being, that to me, they're like diamonds. They either shine brightly or they're dull. You know, they might be a different colour than another. You know, like that. They're the same to me, and I get great joy out of seeing people's lives change. The same as I do about seeing somebody that I've just done an engagement ring for. That
right, you can appreciate the beauty in
absolutely,
both, yeah.
And both are the
so
same.
The diamond grading was something that came later in your life once you had a chance to. You repartnered, and your partner said you really need to do something for yourself.
Yeah,
yeah. Okay.
It's your expression, because I've worked with jewellery. I think for a long, long time. I've always had relationship with jewellers, and I've actually acted as a like a broker. I'll buy jewellery on other people's behalf. Men don't know how to buy jewellery. They do not know how to buy. I feel sorry for women that their partner, unless they are well skilled and lots of money, that come home with a nice engagement ring that a woman's really proud to wear for the rest of their life. Yeah, I can nail that. I can give them really good options.
That's a special skill.
It is.
So we've got two skills, and we've probably got more than two skills. You can own a self-funded, public, benevolent organisation, and you can be a diamond grader.
Yes.
I want to know about the self-funded, benevolent organisation now.
Yes.
So how does it work?
Okay, so food assist, in the early days, we never used to buy food. The relationships were forged directly with the manufacturers, and the manufacturers used to have food that might be they might have, like, let's just say a biscuit company may have an order for an overseas order, and it might fall through. That particular product might not be in the Australian marketplace, and therefore they'd have to write it off. So instead of dumping it, then that's the sort of product that we'd get. So in the early days, we used to get a lot of different types of products you couldn't get in the shops here. That was open to all charities at the time. So it depends on the relationship that you gathered. But then Food Bank Australia, we were always known as Toowoomba Food Bank in the early days, 1996. And Food Bank throughout America and throughout the States is exactly, there's food banks everywhere. It's not overseen by a big corporation. government money sort of got involved in the city centres, and then Food Bank Australia was forged. But early in the days, Food Bank and Food Bank Toowoomba, or Toowoomba Food Bank, Food Assist now, we used to trade in pallet loads of food. So we used to get quite a lot of food, and if they got food, the manager, we used to work quite closely together, and then we would do swaps and we would trade with each other. Well, I've got 10 pallets of this, and how about... So unfortunately, over the years, Food Bank has contracted manufacturers to them. In Queensland lost a lot of manufacturers to the southern states with tax incentives and benefits. So in Queensland there was a lot of, we were getting shrunk out of the marketplace along with all other charities. To today, we only have Food Bank to rely upon, and we have to buy our food. I'm just told today by Food Assist that we're now having to spend $1,400 to $1,600 for a pallet load of pasta from Food Bank. We can probably go and negotiate that now with someone like Coles and Woolworths, believe it or not, and buy it cheaper from them. So all of a sudden, where it started off, that food was accessible to all charities, it's now not. So we're hamstrung. So now Food Assist, what it looks like, we're buying everything in.
Annette, so as I came here and I parked, there's a lot of people coming and going. I can see a lot of women, particularly with kids in their cars, and there's a lot of activity. Like there's a retail outlet,
yes,
as well as you giving food away. Is that correct?
Yes. So we have food that we give away that's donated by Second Bite. Second Bite we pick food up from them. We buy food from Food Bank. And there are still some smaller manufacturers and some other manufacturers that we might occasionally get some donated stock from. That's a rarity. Food Assist here in Queensland, I think we're the cheapest food hamper there is in the whole of Queensland. And the purpose for that is that we've always believed that we are a true community service. We're not here to make a profit, even though you do need funds to keep the truck on the road, and we've got a couple of staff and we've got electricity. I mean, the costs are associated. Dumping costs is another thing. You're getting rid of, items as rotten food, food that's damaged. That's another huge cost. So it is time, particularly with the increase of the cost of food and even with fuel, we're forced to having to put our costs up again a little bit. But I think people do understand that. They're getting a lot more options now with having their little retail shop open, and a lot of people come in and just use that, which is pretty cool.
I'll just remind the listeners that they're on 102.7 FM and you're with me, Megan O'Hara-Sullivan, and we're on Big Little Small Talk, and we're talking to Annette Rose, who is the CEO and founder of Food Assist here in Toowoomba. And we're talking about how Food Assist actually works. So are you giving food away, or are you as well or providing food at a much cheaper cost? Is that how it works?
But it's try all. So we do welfare parcels if we can, if we have an abundance of items. We've been known to give out quite a lot of food. So the general hamper, what people get in their hamper is basically what we pay for. And if we're giving it out at cost. So, and it's the same in the retail shop. So it's everything. What makes it work is for normal people that might come in and buy a hamper for somebody else, or we do vouchers. So if you've got a family that's doing really well and wants to contribute, they can come and buy a hamper and pass it on to somebody else or keep it in our welfare. So we have a lot of other organisations that don't provide welfare food, and they send them to us for welfare food. So other organisations, companies, and just the general Joe Blow can actually donate by buying a food voucher for a family member, or they can come in and purchase a food voucher and give it to somebody else themselves.
Okay. And is the food, is it all non-perishable food, I would imagine, not fresh?
We do have some fresh. Like if you have a look today, we've got greens and peppers, and we've got apples. I just had an apple. They were beautiful apples. And it could be things like cheeses at the moment we've got ice cream, we've got frozen vegetables. There's drinks, there's a lot of different variety there. So Sometimes we get cleaning products come through and shampoos, and there's, it's a big range of items we get.
And how do if I'm out here listening to this now, and I think, particularly with the rising cost of living, how do people access Food Assist, and is there some sort of eligibility criteria to do it?
We've taken away the eligibility criteria. When a farmer plants a field of wheat, they don't go around and pick out the weeds. They wait until it's harvest time and they harvest the whole lot. So over the years, many people have said to us, how do you judge that person is eligible? Or how can that person turn up in a brand new four-wheel drive and you're giving them food? They don't know that person's story. They don't know that that person has had to be forced off their farm and has been left with the only vehicle that there is. They don't know somebody else's story, or they don't know that somebody might be coming in to be picking up food for their neighbour. So what we've done is we've taken away the eligibility. We've taken away what our other agencies in our area in the early days wanted to see from us, that we were putting a criteria of whether they were on a pension or a disability pension or below the poverty line. So we've taken that away because we want to encourage everybody to use Food Assist. Everyone's going through a hard time, and when they're not going through a hard time, they can still come in and purchase to support us in order to support somebody that can't do it.
I like that. I love the sound of that. It's fabulous. So
it works very well, yeah.
So you started to say before, if you want to come in and buy a voucher, and it can sit here for someone that may come in, and you can then say to them, look, we've got a voucher here, you can just take that now.
That's right.
Is that right? Yeah.
That's right.
Is that fabulous?
They can even do that online. So on our Food Assist website, they can either donate a food hamper value, or they can go into a dollar value. All that money that comes in that way all goes to welfare hampers and to families that are in need.
If people come in, I'm just thinking, and you can clearly see, because the mothers come in and the kids are still in the car, and you know that they're actually going and just parking in the park, and they really need crisis accommodation or clothes. Or are you a referral type service as well?
Absolutely. Yeah.
How does that work?
So if we, depending on whether they're going to let us know or not, but you do get to know your regulars, and you'd be surprised at how people do open up to you. So then there's always a responsibility for us to then share information and to refer other people, and likewise other agencies refer people to us. And there are things that sometimes we can do to help. One of the biggest things is if a lot of I'd say single mums or mums that have gone through domestic violence, they're at home with their kids, we've had them come through volunteering. It's given them a boost of confidence. They've learned skill sets. They've gone on from there, and we've encouraged them to do courses and training. And some of them have gone and done degrees, and some of them have gone and worked in childcare centres, and they've got jobs. Some of them have had small business, and they're different now. So it's not just the recipients of Food Assist, it's the volunteers that have a huge impact in their life. And then not only that, we have people with disabilities come in and do work experience. We work with the special schools in the area, and so they send the kids down and do programs, and they pack food parcels, and they're taking food boxes out to cars for families and for the older people. It really is a really lovely community to be involved in.
It is incredible. So I think when you had the expansion here and you had the opening, the lady who was running the place used to be a client.
That's right. She used to be a recipient, yes. Yeah. Well, she said she'll tell you her life has been very different now. And, I mean, she's very proud of the job that she holds down and the work that she does. I don't think that she would probably be able to tell you that she thought that she could ever really do that. So it's giving her the opportunity and the growth. I mean, there's opportunity for more growth, for her. So it's probably taking the ceiling away to allow people to expand. I think that's really what even with my staff and our other different parts of our business, is I don't think AxCare has a ceiling on our people. If you can grow and want to expand and do wonderful things, then do it. You've got our support.
Annette, do you not see any small irony in dealing with the really wealthy people and they're buying diamonds and having diamonds made for their loved ones, whatever, and then that's on your right hand, and on your left hand you're dealing probably with some of the most disadvantaged and some of the most needy. Like, does it sometimes sort of strike you as
It's not until
bizarre?
it's not until I talk about it, because often I hide it, because I do wear diamonds and I like nice things. I sort of pride myself, I can be with anybody. I don't see the differences between people except for, it intrigues me who they are. So I don't look at somebody that's wealthy. I know people that are poor and are stuck up, and I know people that are wealthy and are so down to earth. And there's every other measure in between. Diamonds are exactly the same as that. And guess what else? You can have fake diamonds that look absolutely picture perfect, like the real deal, just as much as you can have a fake person look bright shining like they've got it all together, and underneath they're crumbling. And I think that's really where my life, and that's how I live my life. Those are the people I hang out with.
Well, you've got a third skill, I think. You could be some sort of philosophy lecturer.
I don't know about that. Human beings are also very disappointing. You know, like we can be very disappointed.
Very flawed.
And very flawed. That's it. They really can be. So you can be flawed and still shine brightly.
Yeah, well, that's lovely.
It is.
Now, I've really enjoyed hearing your story, because it's just a fantastic story.
And when you live it, you don't think it's really much of a story. It's not until...
I hope having to talk about it has brought it out. But I've got two final questions before I let you go, Annette. One is, who's your favourite royal?
I think it's a funny question. My favourite royal's Mary, Queen of Sweden, Tasmanian girl, and she took on the institution, and she presents herself absolutely remarkably beautiful and refined, like nothing's wrong, like a nice bright diamond, really. Classic, great lines, beautiful, poised, not a step out of line.
Lovely, what a good choice for someone like you. And my final question for you is, what's the song that can't keep you off the dance floor?
Nutbush City Limits.
In the wake of Tina Turner's death, have you been doing the Nutbush a lot?
No, I've got recovering from a broken ankle, so struggling to walk, let alone dance. But I'll have to say, yes, when all else fails, it's all you want to do is get and shake yourself. And Nutbush City I grew up with that in the 80s, you know.
Yeah.
I was very good at it too.
And I think Tina might have a fair bit of go in it, just like you. So, Annette, thank you very much for being my guest on Big Little Small Talk.
Thanks for asking me. Thank you, Megan.
Welcome back to Big Little Small Talk with me, Megan O'Hara-Sullivan, and I'm at Food Assist in Toowoomba. I've got another guest here, and his name's Paul Wilson. And Paul, you are what's your role here at Food Assist?
Project Development Manager.
Okay. Now, Paul, you're a long-term resident, and you've got a really interesting career. I know you went to Centenary Heights, and you're very involved in the music industry, and you've had a go at lots of different things. Tell me what you do here at Food Assist.
So I create new programs for the NDIS services. Also work closely with the Food Assist manager to try and create opportunities for the community to become involved in Food Assist.
Now, Annette's told us about the history of Food Assist and a lot of the clients, but you've kind of ramped it up to a whole different level, haven't you? Last year when you were taking on taking over from Lifeline? When did we have the Loads of Love appeal? When did we have a very special guest off Big Brother? Tell me about that.
The Big Brother guest was for the Disability Awards launch. Yes. That was in June, I think. Yeah, we had Reggie Bird came in and was able to tell some of her story.
Yeah, well, tell me Reggie Bird's story, and why were you keen to have her come and launch the Disability Awards?
Yeah, well, some people may know that she's got an acquired injury. She's got an acquired disability, in that she's going blind. And I know I actually learnt that when she was in the Big Brother house for the second time. So I messaged her while that program was on and asked her whether she'd consider coming to do it. And she said yes, and we had to try and go through Channel 7 management and all that because she was still under contract to them. And then she won it. So it was like, wow, we're going to get the new winner. So it was really good, and she was able to come along and, just have a chat to the audience about what it's like to be... The difference between going into the Big Brother house when she was fully sighted to now was just so much different.
Okay, so the Disability Awards, what is your involvement there, and have the awards, is that something relatively new or...
No, so I actually, along with David Wallace and Kim Stokes, we started this event in 2012, was the first one. Back then there were 60 people at a breakfast. Last year we had 378 people at a gala dinner. So it's growing every year. This year will be no exception. I'm sure we'll get a pretty good crowd again this year.
And why, Paul, did you start the Disability Awards?
So I was having a conversation with Kim around my daughter, Jasmine, who's now 19, back in 2012, about what are the opportunities going to be for her in the workspace when she leaves school. And
Can I
that's
just interrupt you there
Yeah,
quickly,
sure.
Paul, to ask, has Jasmine got a disability?
Yes, so Jasmine has Down syndrome. Yeah, and an intellectual impairment. So I was worried about what opportunities might be available for her once she leaves school, and that's how the Disability Awards were born. And
what were you trying to do there, do you think? You were trying to sort of elevate people with disability to for better job promotion, or just celebrate their wins in life, or tell me about
Really the idea was more to award and acknowledge businesses that have inclusive practices. The idea being that if other businesses go, well, they're doing it, I can do it too. And look, we've come across some quite good stories in the past. One particular one was a lady who attended the event. Her name's Gay Hold, and the next year she actually won an award because she'd employed 2 people with autism and one with Down syndrome in her hairdressing salon. So that was because of the fact that she went to the Disability Awards the year before.
Right. Well, Gay has actually been a guest on Big Little Small Talk, and we celebrate all the things that she has done as well.
Yeah.
She's an incredible human being.
She is.
So Jasmine, you said, is living with Down syndrome. What
Yep.
does her day involve at the moment?
Her day is busier than anyone's, I think. She has a support worker come into the home and get her ready for the day, and then she does appointments with her therapist. She goes to group sessions. She plays 10-pin bowling. On a Thursday morning, she spends 2 hours in a childcare centre doing work experience. So she's really busy.
Yeah. Has the work experience, is that something that has been as a result of your disability awards and those connections with business? Do you feel as though the Disability Awards has been what you wanted it to be?
What I wanted it to be and more, Megan. We're looking at taking it to Brisbane and the Gold Coast. We've started putting plans in place, speaking to the local politicians in those areas to try and get their support. I always say if they come to the event, they love it, feel it, touch it, they walk away in love with it. So we want to try and get the politicians from those 2 areas, Brisbane, Gold Coast mainly, to attend the event this year. So then hopefully they'll go, yeah, we definitely want that in our town for next year.
But Paul, saying, we're going to have this thing and have a breakfast, to actually having an event where you've got 372 people or whatever.
Yeah.
How much organisation, how much sponsorship, how much work is that?
Yeah, so we're really fortunate and we've got some incredible sponsors. I think last count we had like 38, something like that, financial sponsors. And that allows us to actually employ the services of an events company. So they do a lot of it for us. We're still obviously heavily involved in the choosing of the speakers and the entertainment and all that sort of aspect. But they do all the other grass and mice stuff, ticketing, the liaising with the caterers and all that. They do all that for us. So it's a lot easier.
And it's just growing and growing.
It would be too much for two people, as in i.e. Kim Stokes and myself, to run it from the bottom to the top. It's just too hard. It's literally almost a full-time job.
Can you talk me through Jasmine's birth? And did you know prior to having a child with Down syndrome that you were going to have, that Jazzy was going to have Down syndrome?
No, we didn't. So I was 24, my wife was 23, and back in those days, and I'd say those days, it was only 2003, but back in those days, testing was something that was quite risky, and we weren't in the age bracket where they needed to test us. And so she was born, and then about 4 hours after, I got a call from the hospital to say, you need to come back to the hospital, we've just given your wife some news, which they did without me there, which I thought was a little bit inappropriate. But anyway, I sort of had a sense of it when I saw her come out. I thought, something's not quite right with her eyes because of the shape of the eyes. And I wasn't sure. I went back to my mum's place and I said, I actually think she's got Down syndrome. And Mum's like, why would you say that? I said, it's just the way she looked. And sure enough, she did.
So was Jasmine your first child?
Second.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you went on to have another child after that?
2.
Yeah. And so Jasmine's just part of a big family, and it's just the rough and the tumble of being in a family of 4 kids, and
Yeah, and people say to me, used to, it's good to see that you treat her the same as the other children. Well, why wouldn't we? She's just one of our other children, she's just one of our children. So,
and was there a hesitation then for you to have more children, or you just thought, no, we're just going ahead? And
well, to be really quite straight to the point, we didn't plan on having any more children. And in fact, with baby number 4, we bought our first house, and then my wife had Gabby in 2011, and the house was too small. But anyway, but no, look, we were a bit worried. Yeah, we were a little bit, read up on all the statistics about whether it can happen again, and it can, but it's very, very rare. And look, at the end of the day, it wouldn't have changed our decision if my wife, if we found out that she was pregnant with another child with Down syndrome, it'd be proceed as normal.
Do you think that has affected the work that you have gone into?
Absolutely. So I worked as an insurance company area manager for 12 years. Yeah, I worked for IAG, Wesfarmers, what used to be called Wesfarmers. Worked there for 12 years as an area manager. And then a position came up at Help Employment and Training, which is a not-for-profit disability employment service. And I got the zone leader role there. And that was my first step into working in the charity world. Help, I moved on from Help and went into an insurance broking role early last year, and I lasted about 6 weeks because I just went, nah, I'm not getting up every day going, whose life am I going to change today? And I'd already been having conversations with Annette about moving over to Axe Care, and so I just rang her and I said, is that offer still available? And she said yes. So, and I've been here now nearly on 12 months, and then as you said, in September last year, we were gifted the Loads of Love Christmas Appeal from Lifeline, and that was sort of head down, bum up for the rest of the year to get that delivered, and we ended up with 19,400 kilos of food donated in that short amount of time.
What's the thing that you most love about your job every day?
I think it's really about knowing that everything that I do is going to affect somebody in a personal manner. So, if I'm creating a program around, let's say learning to play guitar, right? I don't play guitar. I'm a singer, not a guitarist. But let's just say that was the program. At the end of the day, everything that I'm doing to create that program, some person is going to be able to have their life changed where they can pick up a guitar and play it. And I think that's what keeps me going every day.
So you say that you're the programs manager. So
Yep.
Are you developing more and more programs? So Food Assist is not just the food element. We have these other... Tell me about that.
Yeah, so Axe Care's NDIS business will be opening a hub in the not too distant future, and we'll have all these different programs that are going to be available around things like I said, arts and crafts and music therapies, and we're looking at doing a makeup course for like how to put makeup on type program and support using a professional makeup artist, things like that maybe set us aside a little bit differently to somebody else. And we've got such a big space in our new office now that we've got plenty of room to do that.
So a whole lot of training type programs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now you said that you don't play guitar, but you're a singer.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? In what capacity are we talking?
Well, actually, I'm not sure how long you've been in Toowoomba, Megan, but back when I was 16, do the maths, which was in the 90s, I was actually in a children's group called the Freckles. And we used to travel around the country performing as a children's entertainment group. And funnily enough, Janie Freckle actually works at AXCare as well. She's one of our support coordinators. And it's just funny where sort of there's a big photo of us dressed in the Freckles costumes in the office. But yeah, so that was my start. And I've been involved in country music as well. Like I was the coordinator of the Queensland Country Music Awards for nearly 10 years or something, which was a huge logistical nightmare. Plus I'd done a lot of, as a singer, I've also been in quite a few bands, both country and also I was in an Australian rock band that played only Australian rock covers called Wizards of Oz. And I was also an adjudicator for country music competitions, and I judged in Norfolk Island, New Zealand, Tamworth, right down to Adelaide, right up to Mareeba. So I used to spend a lot of time doing that sort of stuff, but now I'm sort of more focused on the disability aspects. I'm not so focused on the music anymore. Still love it. Still love my country, you know. But
right.
yeah.
4 kids and a full-on job get in the way of being in a rock and roll or a country band or a rock and roll
any sort of band, to be honest. Yeah.
You've had an interesting life. Tell me about being shortlisted for Family Feud.
Oh yeah, that was a very long time ago. But you know, my sisters and we just thought, let's give it a go, and we went down there, and I think we might have been a little bit too risque for them. I think I was about 14 or 13 or something. I can't remember exactly, but my sister found the letter the other day, and she sent it to me, so I put it up on Facebook to show that that's what we did. But it was, I was great. That was back when Rob Bruff was doing it. Yeah.
Why were you too risque?
Oh, because look, my family are really quite laid back, and you know, you asked me before, is there any topic off guard, and I said no, because we just talk about everything. We're very open, so you know, we like to crack jokes a lot, and as a family we've done that our whole life, and I think that's probably what they might have been a bit worried what they might end up with, but anyway.
Another really interesting thing that you've done, in 2017 you ran in the Toowoomba North electorate.
I did.
State election.
I did.
For One Nation Party.
Yes.
What was the decision to do that?
Well, you know, so many people complain about what's going on in the world of politics, and not very many people go, well, I'm going to put my hand up to say I'm allowed to complain about it, but I'm also going to give you my 2 cents worth about it. And look, the other thing that you don't have listed, you probably don't know, but I was actually the founder of the Toowoomba branch of One Nation back when I was 17 years old. So I've been involved in that particular party and Pauline herself for that long. So I think really that's why I just decided I'm going to do it. And my wife was just like, if that's what you want to do, you just do it. And you know, I know, and particularly now at the moment, like, I'm pretty glad I didn't win, I think, because politics is just so dirty. You know, with everything that's going on in Canberra at the moment, you just think, really? Is it really that bad? Whereas I think I might have got chewed up in the system. I think everyone goes into politics with for the right reasons, and then for whatever reason, not everyone, but some of them get cooped up in party politics and they go off this way, and you think, what the heck? So look, I enjoyed the experience, Megan, and I think it's one that I can tick off the bucket list to say that I've done it. If I had won, I would have been a staunch supporter for Toowoomba, as I've always been my whole life, actually. But look, you know, I was up against some pretty big characters.
Are you still involved with One Nation?
No, I'm not involved. Yes. I'm a member, but I'm not an active member. Yeah. Let's put it that way.
Are you still a political watcher? You love watching politics?
Love it. If there's a by-election in Melbourne, I'm watching it on the ABC or Sky News, because I love to see the data come in. And I remember when the media was saying, not the last federal election, the election before, oh, Labor's got this in the bag, they're going to win it. And then literally this tiny little booth came in, and I said to my wife, Labor's not going to win this. And she said, how can you tell? It's tiny. I said, look at the swing. It's gone towards the LNP, not against them. If Labor's going to win, even in the smallest seat, it's going to go towards them or stay where it is. Sure enough, they won.
You and Anthony Green.
Yeah. He's actually my favourite when it comes to watching, because he's just so bang on with his predictions and stuff.
Yeah, how interesting. I mean, you say that people get waylaid, or, you know, politics is different now, but do you really think there's anything different under the sun? Like, I think, to my mind, there is nothing new. It's all sort of a repeat of history in a way.
Probably, yeah. Look, it's probably just that with all the social media nowadays, like, you see more of it, as opposed to it's on the news at 6 o'clock and it's done. It's in your feed all day, you know. So that's probably the biggest thing that's changed about politics, I think, since then. But look, it's an expensive game too. Like, I mean, you know, I didn't spend anywhere near, you know, my fellow candidates probably, but it still was a fair bit of money that I spent because I said to my wife, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it properly. I'm not just going to be a name on a ballot paper, you know.
You said that it was something that was on your bucket list. What else is on your bucket list?
What else is on my bucket list? To be honest, to grow the Disability Awards. It's something that we want to do as a committee, or as directors. We want to be able to grow it so that it's in different parts of the country, and we can spread that message around the importance of people with a disability having an opportunity to have a job, and I mean meaningful employment, like, and paid under the award rate. You know, I understand that some people might not have the abilities that others have, but let's find what their strengths are and work with those strengths. And you know, I don't know whether you've done a pod with Joshua Bamford. He would be really good, and the reason I say that is because McDonald's Toowoomba won our Employer Award last year, and the reason they did that is they've literally set up a program where they write the position description based on your abilities, right, which I think is remarkable. If more businesses do that,
how common is that?
Not very common. No. Not very common. And you know, we keep hearing about the shortage of available workers, and we go, well, let's get more people to come from overseas, and yep, that's fine, whatever, but let's look at a different program and go, let's do what you know, Joshua and the team at McDonald's Toowoomba are doing, and let's rewrite some PDs based on people's abilities. Look, I think we've got plenty of opportunity to be able to, you know, my daughter would love nothing more than to get up every morning and go and play with the kids at a childcare centre.
Brilliant. Now, unfortunately, Paul, I've run out of time, but this is going to be a fairly easy question. I'll leave my second question. First question is, who's your favourite royal?
Princess Diana.
For what reason?
Because she was a little bit naughty, but she used that to benefit other people. She wasn't being naughty just to be a show off or to get her faces in the paper. In fact, it was the opposite. She hated the newspapers, as we all know. I just think she was just a remarkable human being, and you know, it's just a shame she's not still with us.
When you say she was a bit naughty, what do you mean by that?
Oh, well, she always did things that she wasn't supposed to, according to the law of the royals, and you know, and you know, when she did that interview where she talked about the 3 people in her marriage, and you know, there is not a royal in the world that would say something like that in an interview, and I like that about her. I think she would have continued to be a remarkable mother, because she was with her boys, and they both turned out to be beautiful young men. So yeah, I just love her. I've got a picture with her, with a replica of her sapphire ring, all framed at home. Sad, I know. My poor wife.
Not sad, beautiful, touching. Okay, my last question, and we've talked about your love of music. What's the song that can't keep you off the dance floor, Paul Wilson?
Oh, anything Luke Combs or Garth Brooks or Dolly Parton. I can't pick, really. I don't dance. I'm a terrible dancer, but I love anything that's got that real old country sound, but tells a good story about, you know, love and loss, and and the country. You know, I love Australian country music too. It tells about some great things. And of course, we just lost Joy McKean last week, I think it was, which was really sad. And I had the opportunity to interview her on radio in Tamworth a few years ago, which was huge.
Can you think of your favourite Joy McKean song?
Oh, she's got heaps, but probably Biggest Disappointment. Yeah, that's probably because it might have been written about me. I'm the biggest disappointment of the family, but no, I'm kidding.
Paul, it's been lovely to hear your story, and thank you so much for being my guest on Big Little Small Talk.
Thank you very much for having me, Megan.
That's it for this week. Thanks for joining me on Big Little Small Talk. I hope you can make the time to join me next week. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe on your favourite podcast app.